let's talk about which Utah players I feel like are going to break out. I got my top 10 players that I believe are going to break out for the Utah Utes this season. And my number one breakout candidate is Rabbit Evans. We got a sample of him last year, the 6'1 safety from Jacksonville, Florida. Played in 11 games with 5 starts, totaling 34 tackles, 2 tackles for loss on the season, along with 1 QB hurry and a pass breakup, made 4 third down stops too. Also, how about that 12 tackle game he had against Iowa State? He's got the range to be a strong safety in coverage, and especially, and he will be just a strong safety. I was meaning stout safety, but I said strong safety. But he's also got the physicality to play in the box that have helped make guys like Cole Bishop so phenomenal when they were with Utah. So really excited for what Rabbit's going to bring to this team. I think he's going to make several of the biggest plays, and I already talked about how good that safety tandem is going to be. We know about Rabbit Evans, especially those of you that watch this show, but the national media doesn't, and a lot of people in the Big 12 don't. By the end of the season, I think they're going to change that. And obviously they do know about Teo Johnson, but they need to learn about Rabbit Evans too, and I think they will. Tobias Merriweather is the next one. 6'5", junior receiver, 195 pounds, has battled injuries and inconsistencies throughout his college career, but when he's been healthy at times, and just there's been the flashes of him putting it all together. Mentioned that massive frame and catch radius. He's got good speed. He's a really talented individual. If he can stay healthy, as we said, and put all the pieces together with the playbook, hit the ground running, if Jason Beck can find the best way to use him, I do believe this is Utah's wide receiver 1, and I think this is Utah's leader in receiving yards for his ability to run a bevy of routes, his big body catch radius, his big catch radius, not big body. He's 195, but a big catch radius too. I think Tobias Merriweather is in for a massive season. Another guy I think almost all of us think is in for a massive season, but I feel like doesn't get talked about a lot is Dallas Vakalahi, the sophomore, 6'2", 313-pound defensive tackle from Utah. Played some as a freshman, 9 total tackles, right? 2 sacks, but when Utah needed him, he turned up big in some games. You know, that Houston game, he had 5 tackles there, and Arizona State, he popped 2 against some of the, especially ASU, right? That's one of the better O-lines in the conference. And there he is, mixing it up, holding his own against those double teams, breaking in, causing some interior havoc. I think he's going to be a 3 to 4 sack guy this season, and I do think he's going to be Utah's best defensive tackle this season. So I look at Vakalahi as a guy with the athleticism and the strength as a real breakout candidate. Larry Simmons, another guy, the Southern Miss receiver. There was a lot of buzz about him at Big 12 Media Days, and I do think that the junior receiver who came over from Southern Miss with 421 yards last year, 27 catches and a touchdown, averaged 15 yards per catch. I believe he's got a great shot to be Utah's 2nd or 3rd leading receiver. As we sit here right now, I see it being Merriweather, Simmons and Zipper rotating in a lot, because Smith Snowden talked about Zipper doing some really good things for this Utah team, right? So I look at those 2 guys rotating in, and then I look at Ryan Davis, who's my honorable mention to break out because he did have 700 yards last year. So how much can you break out if you also had 700 yards last year? Like, yeah, no one's really talking about him, but he's a very talented individual. So he's another guy that I think is deserving of that. But Simmons, another guy who has the ability to take a top off the defense, a pretty good catch radius too. Not the Merriweather catch radius, but still 6'1", good size overall. So I think he's a guy who can run a lot of different routes for this Utah team and is going to be able to make some big catches coming from Devin Dampier. Another guy I look at is John Henry Daly. These are back-to-back guys that there was just a lot of buzz about them at Big 12 Media Days. The 6'4" defensive end who was a BYU transfer, came to Utah last year. He actually played in 7 games, but he's this is now the year where it's like, okay, got a couple years under your belt. You're back from your mission. Let's get the John Henry Daly back that had 22 sacks in 14 games his senior season. Coaches said he was winning a ton of the one-on-ones too, John Henry Daly was, and in practice, and I think he's going to be winning a lot for this Utah team. He seems like the favorite among the media to win the defensive end starting spot opposite Logan Fano, which would be kind of funny if the 2 Utah defensive ends are former BYU guys, but that seems likely as we sit here right now. Speaking of pass rushers, how about another one that Utah grabbed in the transfer portal last year that didn't make a massive impact, but I do think can have a really strong season, and that's Paul Fitzgerald, the 6'4" defensive end from Utah State. Had 8 sacks a couple years ago with the Aggies, 9 tackles for loss in full. Last season played in 9 games overall. Was still just, getting up to the strength in the P4 level and all those things. And he's another guy people were buzzing about Big 12 Media Days. And the fact that he's gotten sacks at the collegiate level already leads me to believe he's ready for this moment. And I do think we're going to see him, especially on a lot of those third downs, because I think Vakalahi has pass rush ability. Outside of that, I don't know who else is going to do a great job rushing the passer on the interior. There's another guy we'll talk about that I think could, but I could see a lot of Fitzgerald being an interior pass rusher on 3rd and long for Utah. He's a guy who's won before. He's got some solid moves, got a year under his belt at Utah. Now I think he's ready to step up and do some more things. Speaking of stepping up, I think Hunter Andrews is going to do exactly that. The tight end out of Texas, who has now been a running back and linebacker in his brief time at Utah. They've moved him to tight end. I like the flashes he showed in the spring game. I think Otto Tia will probably have more yards than Andrews this season because he's just a naturally better receiver, right? But I do think Andrews is going to make some big plays for this Utah team. Alex Markham has said before that he's a guy that he's heard some buzz about too. So I think the redshirt freshman, the size, the strength, the speed, he's just a great football player. And what I mean by great football player is the fact that he is capable of playing multiple positions at the collegiate level. It's a huge compliment to Andrews. He's bought into the physical transformation it takes at tight end, and I do think he's going to be a steady contributor for Utah throughout the season. There are questions about how much they'll use a traditional tight end, but I believe Andrews makes a couple plays for this Utah squad this season. Just like I believe that Blake Cotton is going to make several plays. I believe he will be the corner who starts on the outside opposite Elijah Scooby Davis, the 6'2 corner from UC Davis, played in the Big Sky, appeared in 33 games with 10 starts. He had over 50 tackles, along with 9 pass breakups, and he even had 6 pass breakups as a freshman in 22 to lead the team there. Thank you to the Utah Athletics website as well for some of these individual statistics. And Cotton is a guy that, just because of the experience, the amount he's played, he was here in the spring as well, too, so extra time to be with and among this Utah team. I'm expecting big things from Blake Cotton this year, but there's multiple guys who could fill this spot. I just look at the amount of college football that Cotton's played, and I give him the slight edge. Similar to, yes, one's Big Sky, one's SEC, but Miles Battle played a lot of SEC football, or just played a lot of games, and then comes over and plays with Utah. Someone who has not played a lot of games is Jackson Jones, the 6'2 defensive end from Oregon, committed to the Ducks as a 4-star, but now he's coming in, and I'm expecting big things that he's at Utah. Played in 5 games as a senior in high school, and he had 9 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 17 tackles for loss in that very limited sample size. So I do think right away we can see Jones be a guy who Utah uses on pass rush situations. He's just got tremendous athleticism, good hands, quick feet. I think he can make some of these Big 12 tackles look slow because of how fast he is. So I think he's going to have a chance to make an impact. And the last guy I'll mention is Jonah Laea. This is a guy who is going to really be relied on because of the guys who have departed this Utah defense. He's right now only listed at 215, which is light for a defensive lineman. I mean, we just talked about Vakalahi. Like if you're looking at Dallas is 313. Laea is 215. So hopefully put on some more weight there, but he was a nice get for Utah. Was a number 10th recruit in the state of Nevada the year he committed to Utah, a 3-star recruit too. Played in 6 games last year. He's been waiting for a couple of years now. This Utah defensive line has had a chance to help him grow and improve his game. And the 6'4", 250-pound defensive tackle, I do believe, will be the first one to rotate in for Utah. And I do think will be a steady and solid contributor. If he could be Keanu Tanavasa, what I mean by that is Keanu Tanavasa burst onto the scene and made several big plays for Utah a couple years ago when we all thought it was going to be Tafuna and Simote Pepa, and it ended up being Tanuvasa and Tafuna. I think that'd be big if Laea could be that guy, and I do think he will end up being a solid contributor for this Utah team. Those are my list of breakout candidates. Let me know who you think is going to break out in the comments below. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Utes. Appreciate you all for making us your first listen and view of the day. And we look forward to continuing to cover Utah football as we get closer and closer to week 1 of the college football season. For the market for a second listen, Locked On College Football has you covered. And until then, we'll see you tomorrow.